Hello, hello. Testing, testing, testing. Good morning, everyone. Just double checking everything is good to go. Hey, Josh. Good to see you here. So Twitch is working fine. Excellent. Hey, Marianne. Can you guys hear me all right? Cool. All right, so we're good to go. It's been a while since the last stream, almost 2 months, I would say. So it feels good to be back. Let's go ahead and start something new today. I believe last couple of streams we were working on a character, the fawn creature. I'm gonna put that one. I'm gonna shelve it. I'm just gonna work on something new, just to kind of like get into the routine again, because we haven't done this for a while. So I thought we'd just do something, something quick that we can actually finish today. So if you want to follow along, by all means, I'm just gonna do a blocking of a creature type of, or more like a character type of stuff. Just the boss, the head, give you some tips and tricks on how to manage your blockings and that sort of thing, and then hopefully just finish something with polypaint and get something that we can present, like something cool, like a simple concept. All right, so by the way, I have the chat right next to me, so feel free to drop any comments or any questions that you have along the way. I'll be happy to reply if I can, or answer any questions really. I also sent an email this morning. You might have already got that, with a pretty cool tip about moving from ZBrush to Marvelous Designer, like how to kind of like create garments and take that whatever you make in ZBrush into Marvelous Designer. And it's a pretty cool technique. So if you haven't checked your email and if you're subscribed to my newsletter, feel free to check that out. It's a pretty cool thing. Speak Russian. Я не говорю по-русски. Sorry. When did ZBrush 2022.4 came out? Not sure. I don't have 0.4. No, I think the one that I have is the latest one. I actually went ahead and upgraded everything to the latest thing yesterday, just to make sure I have the right one for the stream. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start with a simple sphere. This is a Dynamesh, by the way, but it's way too high in terms of the resolution. We can do a couple of things. Let me just turn off the floor as well. We can reduce the size of the actual mesh, and this is a pretty cool tip actually. It's something very basic, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. Dynamesh is based on the resolution of Dynamesh is based on the size of the object. So if I want to have obviously something a lot, more manageable in terms of the topology and the points right now that I'm in a blocking stage, I can just go ahead and reduce the Dynamesh resolution, right? Or alternatively, and this is my preferred method, just because I'll tell you why in just a second, I prefer to just scale this thing down. Right? In fact, let me just give you a better idea what I mean about the resolution. So I'm gonna just put this here on the left-hand side. I'm gonna do a snapshot, Shift S, just to drop that in the canvas. Hang on, there we go. Right, so I'm just gonna leave it here just to show you what the Dynamesh resolution basically is. And I'm just going to scale this down something about there. And I'm going to redynamesh. So now we have obviously a lot less points, so 3,000 points or 4,000 points. But what I want to show you with this screenshot that I did is that the Dynamesh resolution is basically like taking a grid and then just like basically run it through whatever mesh is in there. So the size of the polygons that are shown here are exactly the same, or basically the same size. If I move this around there, you'll see the lines that I created there from the previous sphere and the new one, they're almost the same size. So that's the thing, right? If I keep scaling this thing down or up, the resolution, I can keep the resolution the same and then just work with the size of the object. So this is a cool thing because now, for example, with the home stage and the target stage, the Dynamesh work pretty much in the same way. So let me just give you an example of that before actually, this is kind of like tips and tricks before we get started. I could basically have a Dynamesh resolution that is at this stage, and for whatever reason, depending on your workflow, you could I have these buttons right here, but you'll find them I think it's in the geometry home stager here. So under the geometry palette, you have the stager, you have the home stage and the target stage. That's what I have in here, and the all to home and all to target. That's just to send all the subtools to the target or to the home. That's right here under the subtool palette. But basically, you can go ahead and say, okay, I'm gonna set this as a home stage, right? That's where everything is gonna be in the center of the world, and then I can just go ahead and move this. Without symmetry, move this out of the way. Let's say place it somewhere, scale it up for whatever reason, right? And click that target stage. So now I can just jump between the home stage and the target stage. So basically what I'm saying here, and this is why it has to do with the Dynamesh resolution, is because at the home stage, it is a pretty low res because it's just a small object. In the target stage, it's still the same resolution at the moment, but it's a larger object. So if I go ahead and redynamesh this, now I have a pretty large resolution in the larger object, and if I switch back, I can just keep working on this pretty high resolution, or vice versa. If I have something that is really big in the target state, just to give you a more realistic example, if I have an eye for a character, just because this is a sphere, and I want to have a lot of details, I would have lots of resolution, right, to add the polypaint. But then and that's placed already in a pose or whatever, like on a side. But then I can just bring it back to the home state, which is in the center of the world. And if I redynamesh, I will be redynameshing with the size of that home stage. I don't know if that makes any sense or if it helps at all, but it's just something cool to keep in mind. And I thought I just show you because it's something that I've been using lately. All right, let me just have a look at the chat. What are they? Shane's Q&A. Shane's Q&A, but for the character workshop. Yep, got it. I see. Right. Yeah, I haven't checked that that recent version. Like I thought this was the latest version. Actually, I haven't seen any new update yet. The Gizmo, yeah, it has huge icons at the moment, but I'm not bothered by it. But yeah, if I can make them smaller, I probably will, just because yeah, it feels more like in line with the rest of the UI, I suppose. Anyway, so I'm gonna block this out very simply because I've been just talking for too long. So this is gonna be the skull of the head, or the head really. I'm gonna turn off perspective, bring in the Gizmo, and I'm gonna scale this in the Z-axis. Something else that I've been using, I would say 90% or 95% more than what I thought I would be using, is the focal shift for the Gizmo. So I'm just gonna move this like that, hold the Alt key, bring this to this side, and then just push it like so, and maybe rotate things around. So just to give it a bit of a obloid shape. Obloid? Oblong. Is that a word? Obloid. Yeah. So it is not rounded. It's basically I wanna create like the top part of a head for a creature. So all I'm doing right now is holding the Alt key to reposition this basically, and because I have the focal shift, this kind of like proportional editing in a way. So it will only move a few points, and obviously depending on how much you change that focal shift. If I go 100%, it's just gonna push probably 1 or nothing. Let's do 91. It'll be pretty pointy, right? And if I go to 9, it's going to be a lot more, right? So that's a pretty cool way to adjust the meshes. And what I'm trying to do right now, by the way, is to create kind of like that line of the skull. Let me actually bring in Epic Pen so I can give you a heads up of what I'm trying to do here. So if you think about this, this would be like if this is the skeleton, that would be the neck. This is this line here. And it's a good like anatomy reference to get this one right, or just to get that blocked out. And it depends obviously on what you want to do, right? But if you want to create kind of like a humanoid character, that always helps. And then you can just have the zygomatic arc, that, and here's kind of like the center, like the gravity point, or the center of gravity of the head. And then you can just from this point, you can just basically do the rest of the skull. So that's what I'm trying to do. You can ignore that now. So yeah, so once we have this, I'm just gonna go ahead and append a cylinder. Scale that down to symmetry as well. And also switch to different material. So this is going to be the rest of the head. And again, just to use some of the relatively recent tools, I have the knife tool here with me, so I can hold Control and Shift and just do this type of stuff, right? So that's going to be the head. I can do this as well, just to try to give it a bit more shape there. And this is going to change a lot. I'm just trying to give you a rough idea of what I'm trying to do. Let's go ahead and redynamesh that whole thing. And let's go ahead and duplicate that as well. So I just duplicated that cylinder thing. And I'm going to use that for kind of like all this area here at the neck, like the fat. Actually, let's rotate that 180 degrees. I think it was fine. All right. Sometimes when I'm kind of like placing these things, I have an idea of what portion of the mesh I'm going to use. So I'm just basically paying attention to how these two pieces of the blockout are interacting with each other. So this bit here, I want to keep that, and this thing here, obviously I'm not going to keep all of it, right? So I just want to make sure that this line kind of like flows nicely. And then I'm going to use another piece to, finalize the neck in here. So I'm not worried about all of these not looking great. In fact, let's go ahead and just use the same knife lasso and just get rid of that, redynamesh that bit. Okay, and let's bring in a cylinder. This is going to be the actual mass of the neck. And as I said, it's going to be a creature, like a character type of thing. So I can take some liberties to distort the anatomy, so it's not going to be perfect. There we go. We can Dynamesh that as well. One of the reasons as well, as I mentioned at the very beginning, the reason why I scale everything down to work with 128 in terms of the resolution is because I'm appending a lot of different meshes, and the first one that I create, kind of like for the head, is gonna give me roughly the scale for the rest of the objects. So if I, you know, as you can see, if I keep just appending a new tool, let's go ahead and make that just a, I don't know, a cube. If I just append a cube, this thing is huge, right? And if I Dynamesh, it's gonna have lots of resolution, right? That's heaps. So one good thing about the workflow that I'm showing you is that once you establish the first object with the right Dynamesh resolution, you can just make sure that when you scale things down to suit the rest of the scene, and when you Dynamesh or Dynamesh it, it's gonna share basically the same resolution altogether. So it's a cool way of working like that. So I'm gonna use that cube to just to set some torso, yeah, and obviously go with the knife tool. I don't have symmetry enabled. Let's mirror and weld that. All right, this is why working with the knife lasso is so cool, because we just have something really blocky. Let's go ahead and redynamesh all of that. And obviously this has a lot of like really sharp corners, so just gonna polish all of this. But yeah, I'm not gonna worry too much about this. Let's go ahead and pull things up a bit here. But yeah, like working like this and setting up the blockout like this is not only really quick, but it also helps me to establish some important kind of like anatomy landmarks. So from the top here, I can see the trapezius. You know, I'm just gonna exaggerate things a lot just to show you what I'm trying to achieve here. I have the clavicle as well. And obviously, another reason why I'm trying to keep everything very low res is because when I smooth things out at this stage, it just does it really quickly. So if I can do something like that and then smooth it out, you know, very, very quick. Alrighty. So this doesn't look very convincing as a character just yet, but what I can do now is merge everything together. So I'm just gonna make sure everything has a different polygroup. So I'm gonna go Control W, Control W, Control W, and Control W. So it's just basically one single polygroup. And then we can go ahead and merge everything. So I'm just gonna merge down. Just I have a hotkey for this. So Control E is the same thing that I use in Photoshop to merge layers. So I just remember that. Control E to merge things down. So now this is a single object, and I can redynamesh this, but this time I can keep the groups. So if I redynamesh now, it's basically the same thing, and it would respect groups. And the idea with this, obviously, is to use something like the move topological, so that I can do this, and you see there's still separate objects. And you know, I think this one wasn't a single mesh or a single. I'll have to fix that. That doesn't look. That looks kind of like an interesting creature, actually. I have to think about that one. I'll duplicate and just save it. Forget about that. I just have it here for later. So let me go ahead and hide some bits and pieces. Assign a single polygroup. Just make sure. Yeah, can redynamesh again. Not sure what's going on there. I'm gonna close holes. Dynamesh once more. I have to inflate this. All right, good to go. So yeah, now I can just bring in something like the move brush. Let's turn off the polyframe. And obviously this is gonna give me the ability to tweak things kind of like as a general, just general, the general silhouette of it. And if I want to be more precise and just move some of the pieces, I can switch to the move topological. That would respect the topology. And that's how I can sort of start to, you know, pull things in and out just to integrate them with the rest. Like so. So let's go ahead and clean this jaw area. Oops, let me see the chat. There's a few things going on. Hey, Raf. Good to see you here, man. Renzo, Johnny. Hey, do you have a Discord server? So can you share the link, please? Yeah, actually, yeah, let me just do that. Just don't remember. One second. Right, here you go. I'll just drop a link there. So that's the link invite to join the server. I'm actually running a contest in the server right now. It's called the, let me actually share that because you might be interested in that. So if you go to the 3D Concept Artist website, let me just show you. So if you go to the 3D Concept Artist website, you'll see this in the homepage. You'll see this ribbon thing, and if you click on that, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because we're running everything in Discord, and it's been fantastic. Like the work in progress that everyone is sharing, it's phenomenal. So yeah, the whole idea of this is just to create kind of like a door entrance or like a passage, basically some kind of doorway, or yeah, like a passage or an entrance that would lead to another world in a way. So I did it kind of like generic in that sense, because the idea is that if you're a character artist or a creature artist, you can do something like this example that I created for it, right? You can just work on your creatures and stuff and create you know, some kind of like gargoyles or whatever, right? Or if you're an environment artist, you can also participate. So it's catered for everyone. It's pretty wide in terms of what you can create. So that's what's interesting, and we have like really cool prizes. Here are some of the sponsors. The first place will get like a Wacom Cintiq, the Character Creator 3 license with a free upgrade to license 4, or to Character Creator 4, 3D Space Mouse. So really cool stuff, and you know, it's just a cool way. You can see everything here. It's a cool way to get started, and you still have time until the 28th of February to submit. And plus, we have really cool set of judges here that are going to be looking at your work. So we have the David Levy and Jared Newman. So the Pitch Dev Studio guys, they did a presentation in ZBrush Summit last year. So they are also judging your work as well. Like if you participate, Gio as well, Jared and Ashley. Obviously, she's a serious streamer as well. So really, you know about her as well. Anyway, so just have a look. There's some references that I keep adding to my Pinterest just to give you ideas of the type of cool stuff that you can create. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. In fact, I finished something for my 3D snippets. So if you go 3D snippets, here we go. So this thing right here is done all in ZBrush and texture in Substance and render in Marmoset. So this is a project that we worked on January this year. January this year on my 3D snippets. And in case you don't know what the 3D snippets are, it's basically I just take every month a new project and I just kind of like show the process and give tips and tricks and share some of the resources. So for this thing, I created like a custom brush, so I shared that brush in the 3D snippets, that sort of thing. And yeah, so I created this one just to kind of like as a demo for the challenge as well. So yeah. How long is the challenge for? Or you have until the at the end of February to submit. Yeah, but yeah, you can just go to the Discord and it will have everything in there for you. So everything is in the Discord server. All right. So now that I have this pretty rough block out of the creature character, you can still see obviously all the very clear lines of where the pieces are, right? You can do two things about it, as in there are multiple ways of doing the same thing, right? You could just redynamesh the whole thing without the groups, and that will create a single mesh, and then you can just polish it and it will be very clean. But what I like to do is use something like the clay brush, right? That is gonna just take all of these. I'm gonna just show you here. And yeah, it's gonna basically bring it closer together. So if I enable polyframe, you'll see, yeah, it doesn't look great, right? But it doesn't matter. I just wanna make sure that I have the ability to still manipulate the separate meshes at this stage. But I also want kind of like a clean set of a transition basically. And it doesn't matter that it looks like this at the moment, because then I will just run a whole Dynamesh, like Dynamesh the whole thing, and it's gonna be fine. But yeah, this allows me to just see everything a little bit cleaner, especially the transitions, before I Dynamesh the whole thing, and I still have the ability to move all these pieces independently. Right, that's not too bad. I'm just gonna exaggerate the most visible neck muscles. All right, I won't probably have time to do anything else, as in the rest of the the rest of the body. But yeah, because I do want to have, you know, my render, the concept will be something like this angle, right? So that I can finish it today. Yeah, we only have an hour in, definitely. I spend, you know, 80% of the time in this phase just playing around with the shapes and the forms, and then if it kind of like, if it works, I'll move forward and I'll Dynamesh, increase the resolution, and that's kind of like the general rule for almost everything that I do. All right, I'm gonna turn off perspective now, so that I can have a better, kind of like a more realistic read of this guy. Just gonna define the chest area a little bit more. Again, not because I'm gonna finish it or anything, but it's a good landmark to, you know, have like the rib cage. So I know like, oh, maybe this is just way too narrow here. And that way I'm gonna show you an exaggerated version. I kind of like know that the rib cage is kind of like there, right? And the rest will be just the arms and the back muscles here. So it's kind of like an easy way to understand what I'm doing. I'm just gonna flatten the sternum as well, another landmark. And it's gonna define the shoulder area, like this bony protrusion here. The acromion process is where the scapula and the clavicle join. So it's another good reference point, or a good visual, so that we can say, okay, this area should be a little bit flatter here, and then from the top I can hide. This is another reason I keep, you know, all the polygroups separate, so I can do these type of things. So I can kind of like tell, all right, this needs to come closer here a little bit more. Anyway, it's not perfect, but it, you know, should give you an idea of what I'm trying to do with all this pulling and pushing of a very low res mesh, right? So if you look at it from the distance, it's not too bad, right? Alrighty, so let me just do a quick save just in case. I'll check again. Hey Raul, soul served. How you doing? Can I only speak English in these streams? No, I mean I can do either or. It's just that when it's advertised as English, you know, I'll stick with it. So, but yeah, I'm definitely planning. I know I've said this before, but I just hadn't had the time. But I might just do two, one in English and one in Spanish, maybe, in the coming streams anyway. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate that just to keep that block out there in case I want to come back to it. But now that I have something a little bit better in terms of the block code itself, I'm gonna go ahead and merge everything together with a slightly higher resolution Dynamesh, almost double, and without groups. So I can redynamesh that, give it a single group, and you'll see now it's all that division is gone. And I can just do a quick smoothing, quick cleanup. And we can start worrying about the next, I would say the next landmark or the next reference point, at least in terms of the visuals, which would be the eyes for me at least. Especially with characters, like that's the thing that I would define almost as soon as I can, because that's where all the, all the attention would be. So I'm gonna go ahead and append. Oh, actually, there's a macro. I've been using this as well quite a bit. So the macro is, if you go here to the macros, go open up the macros, you will have one called append eyes, the second one actually. So if you click on that, ZBrush is going to append a couple of spheres, and they're like relatively alright resolution, and they're polyspheres, so you can just subdivide them with the normal subdivision approach. It gives it a black color, and it also assigns the I think it's the toy plastic that this one has. So that makes it really easy because it's just one click, and then you can just select them and place them whatever you want. This is something else I should mention. So if I were to scale this into the center, it's just gonna do it in the center of the world because there are two pieces, right? And ZBrush is looking at this as the entire volume. And even though the gizmo is right here, if I scale it from this angle, ZBrush is gonna look at this volume, the entire box, and it's gonna look at the center line, and it's gonna scale it to that point, to the center. Yeah. So it's kind of like, regardless of what this gizmo is, this yellow box to scale everything proportional is going to be in the center. So to change that, all you have to do is enable local symmetry, which will be on the transform palette, this one right here. And that way, ZBrush is going to assume that you're not looking at the entire world as the scene, but individual volumes. So it's going to look at this volume and this volume separately. So now I can do that, and you see it's doing it separately, even though they're two different meshes. I'm going to make these the eyes of these guys quite small. And I want to go for some kind of like, again, stylized alien creature. And maybe a little bit further in. Right. And it's important to establish this from the beginning, not only to have like a visual, anchor point to the rest of the stuff that you're doing, but it would also give some kind of personality as you sculpt. And I think that's an important thing to kind of like influence the decisions that you make on the rest of the project. So if I were to just take this and make it like huge like that changes the whole dynamic of the character. Like it's a little bit more cartoonish, and it suggests to me, at least from what I the reference that I gather and stuff like that, it suggests more like a fish creature, because of the size of the eyes. So yeah, just want to keep it. Yeah, gonna keep it there. And then I'm gonna start working on the surrounded area of the eye. And you'll see I'm just using the move brush, I'm not sculpting yet. Just want to get a good read of the volumes before I do anything else. One thing as well that you can do is use the curve tubes, right? And I'm gonna go to the picker. I'm gonna change the depth from 1C to constant C, so that it continues, or not constant, continuous C, so that it continuously evaluate the surface, so that it's kind of like attached to it. That's kind of cool as well. Every time that I'm like designing directly in 3D, I could have like a good idea of what I want to create, but every time that I do like a silly test like that, I just see new things and I go like, okay, this is interesting. I can just work with that. All right, so I'm gonna scale this down, and I'm gonna use this to block out the surrounding areas of the eyes. It might not be as prominent once I smooth everything out, but it's a simple way to do it. Right, so I'll just do that for the maybe smaller size to update that, and let's go ahead and do the same thing here. And with a maybe larger brush, not that large, something like that, and maybe one more here. Actually, let's do two more. One there, and another one here. Okay, so I'm gonna clear the mask, and obviously this looks like a mess right now, but everything has its own polygroup. So it's basically like going back to what I did at the very beginning with everything else, where you establish very simple forms and then use the move brush, in this case the move topological brush, to adjust them. So what I'm gonna be kind of like worrying about right now, it's the transitions. So I'm gonna start pushing things like that. It's kind of like working with traditional clay in a bit, in a way, because it's like just adding pieces of clay. You want to think it about this whole process in that way, and then you just blend them together. So these narrower versions of these tubes, they're well, ideally they will become the actual eyelids, or like the little rolls of the eyelids. So I just want to connect this a bit, and then we can worry about the rest. Right, that's not too bad. I'm gonna take the clay brush and do the same thing. So I'm just basically following the same principle of the same process as before. Just blending these things with the rest of the blockout. It's kind of like doing like the large blockout first and then mini blockouts in between. Right? That's not too bad. Just want to exaggerate this part of the head. And start removing that very obvious spherical shape here. Hey Facundo, I've gotten Pixel stream, just seeing all the great artists like you. Oh, thanks so much, mate. Opinion on watermelon? That's a very random question. I like it. Like most of my creatures, this one is not gonna have a nose. I don't know why I have like this phobia for the nose. I just think they're cool if they don't have a nose. They breed in some kind of like very different weird stuff. Opinion on aliens. What sort of opinion? All right, I'm gonna do the indication of the mouth, and I'm gonna show you yet another cool tip for it that I think is gonna really good. I love them, hate them. Yes, no, aliens. Oh yeah, for sure. Do they exist? For sure. Do I have proof? Don't. Do I? Yeah, it's it's preposterous to me to think that there's no other type of life. It would be I would say arrogant on my part to think that I'm the only, well, that we are the only ones. But you know. Cool. So let me just show you something else. Let's do a quick save as well. And I'm just gonna duplicate again just to keep. So I'm gonna make the usual OR folder. That's just to keep the originals in there in case I want to use them later. And I'm gonna create maybe in a separate tool. Let's select the spheres or the sphere, make it a polymesh 3D, and we can go ahead and maybe append. Let's look for the IMM primitives, and that one should have this shape, the cylinder extend or extended. And what I'll do is drag that in there. Use the Gizmo 3D, and I'm gonna push this in, maybe scale it even more. And I'm gonna scale it in this way, this fashion as well. Like that. And yeah, I think that should do it. I'm gonna invert that selection or that mask. I'm gonna squish this a bit. Oops, I'm gonna have to rotate this 90 degrees. There we go. So this is gonna be the shape of the mouth. Let's go ahead and we could Dynamesh this easily. Smooth everything. Just gonna give it a bit of an inflate as well. All right, so this will make more sense in just a second, I promise. This is basically the mouth back. If you want to use a mouth back. Right, so let's go ahead and take this simple mesh, that's a Dynamesh, and I'm gonna use the polygroups, but I'm gonna create another polygroup. So I'm gonna isolate this one. Not that you really need it, but I like to sometimes use them just because it's gonna be easier. So I have essentially 4 different polygroups here. I'm gonna keep groups and I'm gonna smooth groups. The smooth groups, all of that is under the ZBrush palette right here. So all of these tools that I'm using are right there. The reason I want to keep the smooth groups to 1 is because if you look at it, it is very jagged, the difference between the 2 polygroups or the multiple polygroups. I want to leave the half on and just zero mesh that with symmetry enabled as well. And there we go. So we have a cleaner topology. I'm just gonna polish or smooth everything a couple of times, run it once again, maybe inflate everything just to make it a bit thicker. Do it again, and once more. That's it. All right, so that's gonna be my mouth bag. It doesn't have to, like I said, you can keep it as Dynamesh. I just like to, you know, if I'm gonna create like an insert mesh or something like that, I prefer it to be like this, but you don't have to. What's the difference between append and insert? It's basically the position of or the hierarchy of the subtools. So if I insert, it's going to be right below whatever I have selected. So it's the same thing, really. If I click insert, I can just select something and it's going to be right below the subtool. If I click append, it's just going to be at the end of the subtool list. That's pretty much it. All right, so I'm going to copy, paste this thing. How we do in time? Yeah, pretty good. I got a question. I'm a 2D artist. I do mostly creatures, and I think I've got a good grasp of 2D principles. How can I use ZBrush to my advantage? How do I concept artists use ZBrush? Yeah, you can. I mean, I am also a concept artist. So I started in 2D, and when I moved into 3D, yeah, basically sped up my workflow like 300 times, 3,000 times. So I would just use what I'm doing right now. It could be just a simple concept, right? So you build something relatively fast, accurate in 3D, and then you have like the ability to rotate the camera, play around with different lighting a lot easier than, and adjust things a lot easier than if you're doing it in 2D. Let me show you something. If you go to my YouTube channel, I have, or yeah, I think it's, let me see. I have a video that I actually explain a little bit of the workflow and the advantages of using 3D in general. I mean, I use ZBrush because it's just pretty easy for me, and it's you know, it's a great tool. But you could use anything really. I'll just put it in here in case you want to check it out later. It's about 20-25 minutes. So and it's basically answering that question, so how you can take advantage of it. And if you're new to ZBrush as well, you can, if you're interested in learning it from scratch, just so you know, the Ultimate ZBrush Guide course is available right now, so you can enroll now. So if you go to the 3D Concept Artist, I'll just put a link here in case you want to check it out. So it's basically me walking you through the entire setup of ZBrush, but it's not just about the ZBrush version, right? It's just about the fundamentals of ZBrush and what makes this software such a cool software, right? So you can just go ahead and enroll, and just basically walks you through everything. It's a step-by-step. This is the type of things that I walk you through, like the fundamentals all the way to you know, fiber mesh, polypaint, posing and rendering. And yeah, so you can just have a look at this. This is the character that I built, and the idea with this course, because there's already so many different things, you know, out there in ZBrush that you can just do it. The difference with the UCG, it's just that I'm focused on the principles and the workflows. So basically, doing this, it allows you to just to do the course, get something really cool going, but also get an understanding of, you know, how things work. So if there's a new update of ZBrush, if there's something new that comes out, you don't have to worry about, you know, oh, how does this thing work, right? You already have like the basics, and you can just figure it out a lot easier, a lot faster. Plus, I do every now and again, I do kind of like updates to it. Anyway, going back to what we were doing. So this is the mouth bag. What's called? Sorry, what was? I'm not sure what the question is referring to. All right, so this is going to be the mouth bag, this creature. You just joined the stream. Is that a question? What's the stream called? Or what's the creature called? Not really sure what do you mean. All right, so basically this is the mouth bag. And I don't know if it's in the center of the world actually. Let's do it again. Oh, the course. Right, it's called the Ultimate ZBrush Guide course. So if you go to the 3D Concept Artist website, the link that I sent, that's the course. The Ultimate ZBrush Guide, that's the name. So you can have a look at it. So the idea here with this mouth bag, right, is that if you look at this obviously I'm gonna use booleans to remove that piece of the mouth, right? And these are gonna be the lips. So the reason I'm gonna do that is just to allow myself to give, like, to have a gap in between those two, and then when I remove it, I can just do, let's say, a series measure with those polygroups and everything, and it's gonna give me, you know, a cleaner topology with that gap, so that I can work with the mouth. So let's go ahead and tweak this, and this is the cool thing about it, because this is a different mesh. I can use the move brush, right, and just maybe, you know, extend the mouth bag or the corners of the mouth a little bit more, right? And I can kind of like see it in real time. So I'm gonna enable this icon here. So this is to subtract, and if I enable live booleans, you'll see that's the mouth bag in action, right? So you can see what it's doing. You can select that, and if you want, for example, to have like the lips to be closer, you can just pull the actual mesh in and out. And actually, let me just show you. Right, so if I wanna, yeah, I can just move this like that, and the guy is now talking. But yeah, it's a lot easier to visualize it, and of course this needs a lot of work afterwards. But because we are at this stage, it's pretty easy to do. Okay, so I think we are nearly there. I need to redynamesh this whole thing. And we can just leave this one off for the time being. I'm gonna go ahead and increase the resolution again. Redynamesh the whole thing, because now we're dealing with smaller portions. But as you can see, once you have the block out, you know, you almost get the details there for free. So I'm just smoothing out the block out that we had. Do a little quick pass with the smooth brush. I'm gonna use a custom brush from the Geiger pack. So if you already got this pack, the Geiger and Beksinski pack, this is the one that I use now as my default cutter brush. Like the damn standard brush for me is now this one, the cutter brush, because it just gives me like very deep cuts. So when I press like softly like this, it just gives me this really sharp cut in there, and it just makes it a lot easier for me to go ahead and smooth things out. All right, so a lot of smoothing this stage to keep things clean. Now that we're trying to move into, a cleaner topology. So I'm just gonna sharpen up the difference in here, and again using the cutter brush, just because. By the way, you don't have to, like, if you follow along, you don't have to have this brush at all. You can just use the damp standard brush and just increase the intensity, or you can also use the /3, this one right here, which gives you a similar result. It's just that, the Geiger brush, I have already tweaked it to my liking, so that's why I use it. All right, I'm gonna switch to the standard brush, just because I want to accentuate some of these volumes in here. I want to create some kind of hole here for the for the ear. Let's see what we can do with this. Something weird. I'm gonna use another custom brush from the same pack, from the Geiger pack. It's called the Standard Strong. You could use just the standard brush with a lot more intensity. So you can use the normal standard brush with a lot more intensity to get this. And I want to hold the Alt key just to push things in. And I'm just playing around with shapes. I'm not sure if I'm going to go for this, but it could work. Alrighty. I mean, it's all right. I'm just going to increase the resolution a tiny bit. At this point, I'm just adding resolution because I already have the masses blocked out, and I'm happy with those. So I'm basically increasing the resolution just to add more definition to certain areas. And because I'm going to do a retopology, it's going to be pretty easy to clean things up anyway. So yeah, just going to redynamesh the whole thing, smooth things out. Maybe use the inflate a bit here. So I want to have that, but I don't want to be able to necessarily see it from this front angle. Let's go ahead and use the standard brush. And now that I have a lot more resolution, it's harder to smooth things out. So if I do something like this, you'll see that a bit of the instances of that stroke. So I just like to switch to the smooth strong, which comes with ZBrush, but you might have to, I'm not entirely sure, but you might have to load it. So you just need to go to the lightbox, go to the brushes, and go to smooth. And this one right here. So double click on that one just to load it. I already have it as part of my UI, so I just like to use that because it smooths things a lot faster, and it's really handy when you have lots more resolution. I'm gonna start thinking a bit more about the how this thing actually could work. It's kind of like a distorted shape of a human ear, but like an inverted one. that's the thinking here. So that's kind of like in terms of details, I think it just balances out nicely. I'm going to use the standard brush as well to emphasize this protrusion here a bit more. So you see at this point, I'm not changing the whole silhouette of the character as much. I'm just focusing on just subtle changes, and everything that I do that, it's a subtle change to the, let's say, secondary forms, I'm constantly smoothing things out. That's why I chose the smooth strong as well. Alrighty. I think the rest of the refinements can be done directly once we have the retopology. So I'm going to move into that section, then do some poly paint, and then call this guy ready to go. Just want to add more details. I kind of like the I would like to have some kind of like things going on like this. That'll be cool. I have to think about that. Yeah, as soon as I do that, it's just very fishy. So I'm gonna stay away from that shape. Maybe some kind of crown, like an organic crown. Yeah, that's not bad. Just need to make sure that it's integrated properly and that it kind of like makes sense in the anatomy. Like it needs to have some kind of purpose. But it doesn't have to mean. Sometimes it's just good to add things that look cool. But if they have, if you can justify them with some kind of purpose, it's a lot better. Let's see the questions. How many points is this now, and how do I know how many points my PC can handle? So this one has this specific subtool has 1.3 million. The total project has 1.5 million. Because I have the tiny, the low res Dynamesh. Depending on your computer, you can handle lots more. My computer is a pretty decent one, so but I don't really go in millions and millions of polygons. Usually I can describe the details that I want with, let's say, 8 million polygons, depending on the type of character. And the thing with ZBrush is that you can have, let's say, if your computer can only handle 1 million polygons, that's all it can do. You can, which it's very rare nowadays, but if you only can handle, or if your computer can only handle 1 million polygons, you can have multiple subtools. So you can have 8 subtools that make up your entire mesh. Each one of those subtools can have 1 million polygon. So you can work with 8 million polygon. One of my biggest doubts is in ZBrush is when going from Dynamesh to Subdivision. Right now, you're adding secondary details that for me should be in the mesh with subdivisions and not the Dynamesh. Johnny, you could do it either way. Like sometimes I just go all the way to like smaller details with Dynamesh. It doesn't matter what the process is, because you can transfer those details into subdivision level. What it comes down to is what's the type of details that you're adding, and if you actually need to have some kind of like really I would say like a really clean topology to describe the form. So if you have a lot of like fluid lines, I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm saying. Like if you have a pattern, let's say I'm just gonna do something random here. So let's say if I have like a bunch of lines that are like this, right? And it has like a certain pattern and a certain movement. And if I go closer, you see the lines in here, they cannot go, or the crevices, they cannot go along the topology, because obviously, it's just a Dynamesh. So in this case, it is good to define them, let's say, to this level, right? Do a redynamesh so that you can control or have like some kind of loops in the topology that go along this, these lines, and then you can refine them after. So it's really up to you. It's depending on what you're trying to achieve, but it doesn't matter. Like, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like, don't give yourself a headache thinking that, oh, I cannot do this or that. For me, just I try to stay in Dynamesh for as long as I can, just because generally speaking, I design things as I go. So I'm not copying a design, or I'm not copying a concept that I already have. The concept basically lives in my head. So I like to keep using Dynamesh just purely because of that, because I can make changes like I'm doing right now with this area of the head. And I don't have to go back in the subdivision level and change the base topology. I can just just do this, and then once I'm happy, then I move on, which is ultimately what I'm gonna show you guys in a second. Is it possible to configure the ZBrush to have a result with more than 100k polygons in the slider? Good question. I haven't tried that, but I'm pretty sure you can. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I don't see the use for that. I would just do it at 100k and then subdivide it if I need more polygons, and then delete lower. I don't see the benefit of trying to have more polygons, unless it's like a crazy complex mesh that you wanna retopologize that would require that many polygons. All right, I think we are ready to move on. I'm just doing like a quick pass with the Geiger cut, with the cutter and a large brush, just to refine pieces of the anatomy and then smoothing things out quite a bit. But I'm just pressing like really, really softly. All right, cool. So let's duplicate that, drop it in there so that we keep the original. And let's go ahead and do the mouth back thingy. Right. I have to move it upwards a bit. Oops. So that's another way that you can change the whole look of the character. So obviously that doesn't work, but I think I want to move it up a tiny bit more. Just double check there's no intersections or any weird intersection. All right, so now what I can do is drop everything into a new folder. I'm gonna call this mouth back and drop that in there. So now I have this folder where I have the character, right? I have the base mesh, and I have the mouth bag. The eyes are separate and they're in a different, they're not inside the same folder. So now what I can do with Live Booleans Enable is click on the gear icon here, and I'm going to click on Boolean folder. Wait until ZBrush does its thing, and it produces the resulting mesh and hides the rest. So now I have this mesh, if I go into solo mode, that has the mouth bag. So now this is part of the geometry, so I can just go ahead and smooth things out and that sort of thing, which is fine. I just need to give it a single polygroup or a series of polygroups so that I can draw or drive the series measure a little bit better. It's going to be pretty, you know, I'm not going to spend too much time on the series measure making it perfect, but I do want to help, you know, help it out, or help the series measure out. So doing something like this, and if you enable polygroups, is going to break it, because this is really, you know, you shouldn't have these like that. But instead, what I can do is I'm going to hide most of them, like so. Hold Control and W. And actually, let's do auto group here. All right. So basically, these groups or these initial blockouts that I did for the eyelids, they really helped me to have these polygroups in here. And even though they look awful at the moment, they can be used by the series measure to basically place a loop around that area. Because let me just show you different color. So basically, every difference between the polygroups is going, or ZBrush is going to try to place, or the series measure in ZBrush is going to try to place a loop around it. So now inside the mouth, I'll do the same thing, and this is the reason I keep, or I try to keep the different polygroups, so that ZBrush can do like a line in there and another one in here. If you want to take this one step further, we can hide this bit, and then we can hide this bit and assign a polygroup. So now if I hide the rest, I have 4 polygroups, 4 polyloops in here. The one here, so this difference of the polygroups is gonna give me, you know, the inner side of the lips, which is what I want. This one right here is just a good way to keep a clean loop going from the corner of the mouth into the cheek, or to, you know, at the back of the neck, whatever. So that's why I keep those in there. But it's not like a, oh, damn it, hang on. There we go. I just accidentally changed those. So those are polygroups that I want to keep. Anything else that I want to kind of like have a nice flow of topology, I can do the same thing. So I can just for the sake of demo, I'm gonna assign a polygroup there. So ZBrush is gonna try to follow this along. You know, maybe the same thing for the face. Right, something like this. This probably is not gonna work that well. This area here, this corner. Just, you know, we'll see. Maybe for the neck. And just for the bottom area. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, this, like I said, this, I'm not confident that this is gonna work necessarily well, but we'll give it a go. So all we have to do now really is go to a half, or just to half, not a half. I'm gonna do it from the actual palette so you can see the buttons that I'm pressing. So in the series measure, I wanna keep groups. That's why the whole reason I did this polygrouping. I also want to make sure that the smooth groups is set to 1. Just look at this, right? This slider here is the same thing as taking something like the polish by groups. If I do this, you'll see it's gonna polish that line. So it's doing the same thing, but at the time that the ZBrush does its thing. So I'm just gonna leave it there. Half of this amount of polygons, I like to do it gradually so that I can see the result. And then if I like it, I continue. Before I do any of that, I'm gonna duplicate this one more time, hide it, just so I can project any details that I might lose in the process. And I'm gonna ZBrush that. And well, ZBrush does that. Let me see the chat. Hello, it's the first time seeing you live stream. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Great to hear that you're finding these videos useful. Comics Legend, when will the extra mile course be open again and will still be the same price? So that's a good question. So I'm hoping to open it at the end of this month or thereabouts. I have to see. I wanna finish the current the challenge that I'm doing, the art challenge, so that I can focus on that. But yeah, I'm hoping to open it, and I think it's gonna be a private opening. So I'm not gonna make a whole fuss about it. So it's gonna be a private opening, just because of the time that I have these days. So it's gonna be a private opening. But if you're in the email list, you're definitely gonna get notifications about it. So I'm hoping later this month, and it's gonna be the last time that the price is going to remain as it was before. So yeah, keep an eye on the email. Hey Alex, good to see you here. What's the use of the character? What is the use of the character you're doing? No, it's not I don't know, like a concept. There's no use. It's just to show you guys some workflows. I might just turn it into a personal concept, but that's it. Hey Andres, great. No worries. All right, so as you can see, didn't do a bad job. But like I said, I had an inkling that this was going to be problematic, but it did a relatively good job. So you'll see most of it is actually a relatively nice topology, and all the loops that we created are intact. So that's pretty good. Now at this point where I have like a decent topology, it's not perfect by any means, but it's pretty decent. I can go ahead and run another ZBrush to bring it down or bring it to a lower poly count. But before I do that, I'm gonna bring in, actually just with a smooth brush, I want to smooth this because this is a very sharp and clean edge. And that's one of the great things about using polygroups and the ZBrush, that is gonna try to keep this very clean, sharp edge, because there was like a very distinctive angle in and different polygroups. But I don't want that. I want something a bit more organic, obviously. So I'm just gonna smooth this a bit. I'm gonna switch to the normal smooth brush again. So I just want to smooth this out a bit, so that the next time that ZBrush does it, is not gonna keep that sharp edge or that sharp angle in there. Alrighty, let's do it again. ZBrush. Pablo, can you turn the direction left right of the spiral brush? Yeah, the direction should be of that brush should be controlled by the Alt key. So let me just show you the spiral brush. The spiral brush, where is it? That's Ashley's brush. The spiral brush. Spiral. Yeah. So in theory, if you click and drag, this is doing it on this clockwise. If I hold the Alt key, it should do it, yeah, counterclockwise. So yeah, it's just using the Alt brush. Sorry, the Alt modifier. This is a cool brush to do weird things like this. All right. Let's go back to this. So you see it's lower in terms of the resolution. We can go ahead and smooth some of these kind of like weird connections just to help the series measure out a bit. And if you smooth this out, it's gonna be a lot easier to to run the next set of or the next series measure process. But for the most part, it's done a pretty good job. Let's do it again. And I think I'm gonna use something like high res anyway. This is not gonna be, super low res. One more time. And I think this is already pushing it, but we might work with something like this. One thing you can do is bring in, let's go ahead and turn off this and this one. So I have the new mesh, the new topology, and the old one. So one thing you can do is project things at this stage. So I'm gonna project all. Did it do anything? Hang on, give me 1 second. Oh yeah, it is doing it. So it's gonna project all of them, and you see it just gets a little bit more defined. That's just a good way to maintain the volumes and then just do another series measure before. Yeah, but this is like pushing it a little bit. So I think this is fine. If I wanted something a bit more accurate, I will just do it manually. That's the reality. But I think series measure did a pretty decent job with simplifying this mesh, right? So now what I can do is, I am used to this process. You don't have to do it anymore like that. Like the new algorithms for projecting, it's pretty powerful. So I'm used to do this. I'm going to show you, but you don't have to do it. That's my point. So I'm used to, I'm going to give it a red color so you can see. The red is the new topology. The red color is the new topology. So I'm used to project at this level, then subdivide the mesh, then project again, then subdivide and project again. So basically what I'm doing is subdividing it to recover or to get more polygons or more resolution, and then projecting it to bring those details from the original mesh or the original sketch into the new mesh. So it's two processes: one to add resolution, and another one to bring in those details. What I'm saying that you don't have to do this like this anymore is because you can just subdivide this as many times as you need to get the level of resolution that you want, and then just click once to project, and it should do a pretty decent job. But again, I'm just kind of like used to do it this way. All right, so let's turn off polypaint. So now we have a retopology done. I'm gonna subdivide it one more time and go with the smooth brush, or we can actually do a polish. Let's see. Uh-oh. I haven't saved. All right, let's hope it doesn't crash. Maybe it was was trying to polish 6 million polygons, so fair enough. How to do if we want to give the illusion that we are sculpting a beard on the same subtool. So two subtools, one for the head, one for the beard. How to make both look perfectly fit, seamless, and continue sculpting one or the other. I'm not entirely. I mean, I understand the question, and I kind of like understand what you're trying to do, but it would depend on the actual look and like how thick is the beard and that sort of thing, and if it's a sculpted beard. So there's different ways to go about it. Let me just continue with this or like wrap this one up. We still have plenty of time, so I can, if you remind me, I'll show you one way to do it that is pretty cool. So I'm just gonna smooth this out. All right, so now we have a decent topology that we can play around with. Right, so this is our mesh ready, and obviously the mouth is horrible, but we have plenty of geometry to define and to play around with, like I said. So what I'll do is I'm going to go to the lowest subdivision level, right? And this is where I can play with this with the mouth. One thing that I'm going to do as well at this point is to separate this a bit more. So I'm going to do this. And I think we need to one more. All right. Yeah, that looks all right. So this is the entire jaw. So what I can do is, and this is one of the recently added features of ZBrush. Before I would have to separate everything and then do a different polygroup by one by one. If I do a single polygroup right now, it's just gonna, it's gonna affect everything. But if I have it here in my UI already, it's called group change. No, sorry, not that one. I don't have it in my UI. In the polygroups, you can use regroup. Where is it? Regroup visible. So regroup visible is gonna basically assign a different polygroup but maintain the ones that you already have. So that way I can sort of split this a bit more. So for instance, I can just go ahead and do this, hold Control and Shift to hide those, and then mask that entire region. And then that way I can just manipulate just this bit. And we can go into a maybe more resolution. And I'm just gonna close the gap a little bit. And like I said, because we have already plenty of geometry, we can add the details later. And I'm using the move topological, by the way. That's why I can sort of push things in quite easily. And I'm going to use the clay brush as well. I think I went too close in there, so I'm just going to use the inflate brush. There we go. So it's a lot of tweaking here, but if you want to have a character that can open the mouth, this is kind of like the easiest way to go about it. Just to be safe, because of the mouth bag now, I'm going to use the back face masking so that I don't affect the back of any of this when I do the refinements here. And I can isolate these pieces, like I mentioned before, just to, let's say, work on if I were to add more details to the lips and stuff like that. But that's the cool thing about being able to work with polygroups and a clean base. all this process now, it's very much the same, just refining volumes and tweaking things. But as you can see, it's once you have the base, it's pretty straightforward. I'm gonna redefine these wrinkles again, just to redefine again the eye. I can see some questions. I'll get to them in just a second. I wanna be able to define this a bit more so that I can hopefully show you some polypaint quickly as well. All right. How would you go about making a feather haircuts for games using fiber mesh or another alternative way? Yeah, there's actually I have a whole guide about it. If you go to the ZBrush guides, there's a couple of tutorials about it. There's one specifically about creating hair cards using fiber mesh and baking them for games, and another one for feathers. There's a couple of tutorials about it, and there's also a guide on how to make different feathers or different type of feathers using different processes in ZBrush, depending on what you want to achieve. But that's all in the ZBrush guides website. And the guide is also free if you want to just check it out. It's a PDF with resources, like an ebook type of thing. I saw another tutorial on tutors subdivide just once and then project. I mean subdivide 5 times, for example, and then hit project. Yeah. So that's what I was that's what I was talking about before. I just saw that. How do I remove the C-script tab and help from the top menu? I don't know. Why would you do that? Sorry. I don't know how to do it. Like that's, yeah. I don't know why would you go and do that, but I haven't done it, so I don't know how to do it. It will probably break ZBrush if you just remove something like that. All right. This needs a lot more work, so I don't know if, and I kind of like it, so I don't want to rush it. So we might do just a work in progress polypaint and then maybe add some details later, because I do want to keep working on this guy. But yeah, I might do it later. So instead, what I'll do is I want to show you the polypainting process a bit, and then, oh, you know what? Let's just add some quick details for this guy, so that I can take advantage of some of the tools that I want to show you of the polypaint. And then we can, continue working on this maybe next stream if you guys are up for it. let's do that. So I'm gonna do a quick save. I'm gonna duplicate. So you know, I like to keep originals. So my project, sometimes the total point just gets to crazy levels just because I like to keep different stages. If I were to work for, you know, if this was a concept for a studio or something like that, I would do similar process, but I would keep the meshes or the different stages as different files that I save, different subtools, so that it just gives me a little bit more of a leeway in terms of, you know, I can, if one file for whatever reason is lost or corrupt, I still have the other ones in different files. Whereas if I have, you know, if I keep everything in one single tool and that's lost, that's it. All right, so I'm gonna try. Well, I'm not gonna. I was planning to do another subdivision, but I think it's fine. I'm gonna use, for the sake of speed, because we already yeah, we have about 15 minutes left. I'm going to use some of my custom brushes for this character. I'm going to use the skin brushes. So this is a pack that, in case you haven't seen this or you're new to the streams, I'll just send you to this area. And all of those brushes, like everything that I share online, really is purely to speed up workflows, you know. So if you go to this Pablo cells, I'm going to just put it in here. So if you go in here, and for the who asked about the feather stuff? Hang on, I'm missing a lot of the chat stuff. 1 second. How to remove script? Another question with alpha brush mode. Drag right. How can I drag only with intensity, not size intensity as actually behavior? Not size intensity. Another question. The alpha brush with alpha and brush mode. I'm trying to wrap my head around the question. How can I drag only with intensity, not size? Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. You don't do it with the, I think I know. You don't do it with drag right. You do it with drag dot. I'll show you in a second. So for the person that asked about the feathers, artist verse. So if you go here to the link that I just sent, just go to ebooks, the categories, and yeah, so the feathers guide. So it's just free. I mean, it's free, like you can donate if anything, but you can just put 0 here and then get it now. And yeah, it tells you basically how to create these different types of feathers with fiber mesh, with, you know, sculpting, and yeah, a whole bunch of different things. It's something that I did for 4R7 or 4R8, so it's a bit dated, but you know, still relevant in terms of the techniques. So it's there. And for the brushes that I'm gonna use, I could use a couple of them. So I can use these skin brushes or the creature brushes, right? So these are brushes for detailing skin for creatures like this. So they're a little bit more alien, like the effects of the skin. The brushes, like these are some examples I can show you in real time, like what this does. But yeah, it's more like creature stuff, whereas the skin brush is more for human skin. So yeah, those are the ones, and I updated the pack recently. So anyway, if you want that, that's in there. So yeah, if I want to start, let's say these pores in here are for the specific regions. I'm just going to start with these 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, the 4 is just a smooth brush, but this 1, 2, 3, and 4 is kind of like different steps to build a kind of like a generic skin. So I want to start with that and do this sort of stuff. So it's very subtle, but this is kind of like the first layer, and it's directional. So you see, if I do it like this way, very hard, it just creates those lines in a directional way. So I can do it like this, right? And it has like a direction. So that's kind of like an important thing. But in this case, I'm just trying to follow the a bit of the shapes that I have established already. And of course, you can do things to further change these brushes, right? So right now I'm like playing with the opacity, not opacity, the intensity from my pen. Oh, sorry, for the person that asked about the drag thing. So if I have this standard brush, right, like this, and I select an alpha, like this one, just to make it obvious, right? And I change this stroke to drag rect. When you click and do this, obviously you can change the intensity, right? And you can change the focal shift so that you can get more of the same. But if what you want to do is have like a consistent size and just leave the intensity at 7. So every time that you drag it is at 70, but you want to make sure it is the same size every time that you drag it. What you need to change is the actual stroke, not the drag thing. So just change from drag to drag dot. So drag rect to drag dot. Drag dot is going to be based on the brush size. So if I want to have consistency in the size, I just click and just place it there, place it there. So it's always going to be the same. Intensity wise is going to be the same, and the size as well is going to be based on the size of your brush. So I can do something larger. You can also turn off lazy mouse and then just place it a bit faster like this. I don't know if this is the question that you had, but hopefully, if not, that probably gives you more ideas. All right, so I'm just gonna continue building out the skin. So the other thing that I was mentioning that you can further customize these brushes is that obviously different parts of the face will have different size of pores and stuff. So you can just change the size of your brushes. So just by changing the size, you will ultimately change the size of these bits and pieces. We're not gonna have time for the rest, so I'll just do the second pass, or the second and third. So skin base 2. So now this one is gonna add a few bumps. Same idea. So I'll just add this bit randomly. I'm doing this very, very fast compared to what I would do with these brushes if I'm, if I had more time. Just wanna get to hopefully poly paint something. I have 10 minutes, so I'm gonna rush it. But yeah, this is the idea of building your kind of like generic base. There's some other brushes that will give you more specific results, but this is a quick way to build the base, and then you can yeah, go back with the more specific brushes and do something different. I'll show you, hopefully, if I have time. So here around the eyes, there's a specific brush for the eyelids that I'll show you as well. But yeah, this is just to make things a little bit faster. All right, let's do the third pass. And the third pass, or the third layer, by the way, you can do all of these passes in different layers. This third pass is gonna add a bit more noise to the base. But I did it like this in different kind of like, not layers, but like steps, to make it easier for you guys to reproduce the same results as well, and for myself as well, just to ultimately, that's why I build these brushes, like to help me speed up my workflow. I use them all the time for my creatures and characters. So when I'm in this mode and I just concentrate on building details, all I do is just click 1, then 2, then 3, and then I just can follow my own process, if that makes sense. So yeah, just gonna keep it simple. And right now this is pretty bumpy, but that's what the next one is all about. So skin base 4, if I double click, you'll see nothing is gonna happen here. So if I double click on that one, nothing happens here because the layer 4 is actually a smooth brush. So if I hold shift, now it is in here. So you see, and that brush is to smooth things out and to clean. It has kind of like auto masking tools. It's very similar to the smooth peaks, or it's based on the smooth peaks, just tweaked slightly to respect some of the height a bit more. So that smooth brush is the one that cleans things up a little bit. and it has directionality as well. So it's all about like creating the details and then toning it down a bit. Right, so that's how I build very quickly, how I build a kind of like a scheme base. And then you have other bunch of stuff like, you know, let's say for the eyes, for the eyelids, I have this one. I have two actually. This one gives you, it's kind of like, wrinkles. This one, there's not a lot of resolution there, but this is basically the effect that you get. Oops. The other one is a bit clearer. Right? So it's kind of like a bumpy surface. Like if you go really close to the eyelids, you'll see it. You'll see the pattern. All right, I'm just gonna do a couple more just to show you what they do. So this one that I really like, this one, the skin imperfections. That's just adding imperfections to the surface. So I just use that kind of like to add bumps. When I'm adding this, I tend to just go out of symmetry, but again, just for the sake of speeding this up, I'm gonna keep symmetry on. And another one that's pretty cool is this one, the lip detailer. So the lip detailer, what it does is just, I use it everywhere, not just for the lips, but it just does like this really nice sort of like wrinkles. So you see, adding details in ZBrush, once you have the, I always say this, but once you have the block out, it's incredibly easy and pretty satisfying as well. So for the lips, for instance, if I hide this section, I can do this type of stuff. So this is what the detailer, the lip detailer does. I'll do the same thing for the bottom. How are we doing with time? 5 minutes. I'm not gonna be able to do polypaint. It doesn't matter. We can continue this later on. This is like really rushed detail setup, but hopefully you get an idea. And you'll know that as I do this, I keep using the scheme base for ZBrush because that's the one, that's my preferred method for this type of details. One that is really cool as well, that if you were to get this pack, you should definitely try out. It's the there's a couple. So this Wrinkle Pusher 2 and the Wrinkle Pusher, these two are really nice to basically push wrinkles around. So one is a bit sharper, another one is a bit stronger. So I'll show you this one. So it just basically cuts lines like this. But if I press really hard, you'll see it not only creates the not enough resolution, but it not only creates the wrinkle, but it also pushes a couple of bumps on each side. So it just, and if you do it over and over in the same area, it just pushes it. That's what it's called a pusher. So I don't know if you can see the effect, but it's kind of like pushing the other ones around. So it just builds like really nice patterns. So I use this one a lot for, you know, when I'm getting into like really fine details like these ones, and try to indicate where, like, you know, the skin would move. And you can also obviously change the size of your brush. So for example, things like this, it's a great tool. Yeah, and it's very subtle. So obviously, it's just a fun way to add details, and it's faster, and I don't know, I can spend a lot of time in this process just because it's fun, and I like to do it manually, like as you can see. But I've only concentrated on this area, and if I look at it from this distance, it's very hard to actually see the details. So that's why it's important before you get to this point and use the brushes and just have fun with that, to have like the block out, like, you know, really good, you're well established. The wrinkle brush is a game changer. Yeah, it's a pretty cool one. Like the other one as well. I mean, there are like 4 different wrinkle makers. So the wrinkle texture is like a lot faster, just to build a whole bunch of wrinkles. So like I can do this. This is for areas like, you know, like the neck, for example. Although there's specific ones for the neck, but you know, an area like this is super subtle, but it creates a bunch of like tiny wrinkles. I don't know if you can see. Some of these brushes are super subtle, so you have to you know, have like enough resolution and play around with those just to get the hang of it. I do use the Morph Target. I have it here on my UI. Just again, like for the sake of trying to jam pack this session with all of these details and all of these tips, I'm trying to avoid, you know, the full workflow. And I also use layers and blending them and all of that. And I wouldn't do any of this until I have the rest of the entire mesh covered with the same you know, base. So the other one that I want to show you, this Wrinkle Sharp, is like really sharp, and it just delays the effect. So it's a nice brush to, you know, start from one point that you want to like fade in or ease into the wrinkle. So if I start from here, I can do this, right? And that's a cool way to just maintain that that nice transition of wrinkles. So this one gives you a lot more control, the lacy radius. So I'll just do it here so you can see. So that's one of that's the Wrinkle Sharp, is this, right? And what I like to do with this one as well is patterns. So that's another cool thing about these brushes, is that you can create your own alphas. So you can just bring in a plane. Let me just show you. You know, forget about the polypaint. I'll just show you this later, and we'll do the polypaint in the next session. Polypaint in the next session. So if I bring a plane 3D, make it 3D like so, and then, you know, let's. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm gonna do a new. A new document, 248 by 248, and then resize that, clean that, and bring that in. I'm going to change the background a bit darker so you can see what I'm doing. So let's go so, and I'm going to frame that from off perspective, lock the camera. So this is a square document with a square mesh that I'm going to subdivide a few times. Maybe scale it up a bit so you don't see the corners. Doesn't matter. So 4 million polygons, right? So I can use the Wrinkle Sharp, right, to build my own custom patterns. So I use the brushes that are already part of the pack to build even more and customize it to specific projects. So if I want, I'm gonna do something quick like this. And this is the pushing thing that I was talking about. If I go really hard to crossing these wrinkles, it's gonna push things around. So it's gonna respect the geometry, but you see, you know, it just, I don't know how else to explain it other than pushing the wrinkle. But yeah, this is basically it, right? So you do that, have fun with this, creating your alpha like so. I'm just doing it like, you know, very quickly. And then, for instance, you can bring in something like the skin damage or skin imperfections, right? And this is just a quick way to add additional details on this area, right? And then using the smooth brush or the skin base number 4, just clean things up a little bit. I'm gonna also use the smooth peaks as well because it's a little bit stronger in this case. And if you want to add a little bit more volume, you can use the standard brush. I'm gonna reset the current brush. I'm doing this extremely fast, but hopefully you're gonna get the idea. I'm gonna use the smooth stronger to clean up the edges a bit. And now I can just go to the actual mesh and go to brush or alpha, click on transfer, click on grab dog, and I have the pretty clean alpha. Now I can just go back and create a new document with my mesh. Oh, I locked the camera, sorry. Here we go. And I already have this, select the alpha that I created and select the drag rect. I'm also in the alpha gonna go to modify, make sure there is surface on, play around with the focal shift a little bit, and that way now I can have my own alpha, right? Obviously that's too strong, but I use the tools to build another tool, and as you can see, it's pretty quick how you can build your own stuff out of the the custom brushes. So this is the case for the person that asked where I'll use the morph target, because I can just place this with morph target or with a layer and then just come back and refine it. Anyway, that sort of gives you an idea. We already reached the 2-hour mark to create this creature. And just for fun, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it in time, but just going to do a working poly paint for this guy. So I'm going to use this compute button here is to compute the ambient occlusion, the ray trace ambient occlusion from ZBrush. By the way, so if you like these brushes and if you like the resources that I share online and all of that, I'm just gonna let you in a secret, not a secret, but something that I shared on my email list today. So in case you haven't read the email or you're not part of my email list, I'm not entirely sure when, but I'm planning and working on testing stuff to plan my next live workshop that I usually do, 5 days, like intensive workshop, that sort of thing. And it's gonna be a workshop on building your own library of assets. So I'm gonna be showing you how to create like advanced brushes, like the ones that I have in the packs that I share, for your own, whatever you want to create. PBR materials, meshes, all sorts of different stuff, so you can build your own library of your own stuff. So it's going to be a workshop dedicated to build assets and stuff that you want to use for your own projects. And hopefully, if I have time, I'm also going to include a section in that workshop to basically tell you my process on how I ship basically the stuff that I share online. So how to create the images that you're going to put in there so you can sell your brushes as well. So it's going to be a pretty interesting one. Let me just add a bit of variation here. So yeah, all that to say is that if you're part of my email list, you should be getting all the details in the coming month or weeks. Once I still plan, like I said, I usually spend more time planning the workshop than actually delivering it. But yeah, so once I have the details ready and I know that that what I'm going to share is valuable, then I'll reach out and let you know that is ready. All right. So I'm going to take advantage of those tiny details that I added here using the masking tools. So I'm going to use mask by smoothness, and I'm going to invert that. And let's do the same thing with mask by peaks and valleys. And I'm going to change the coverage a bit. The range. It's too much. This is just automated ways of adding details. Yeah, so I'm gonna use the adjust colors here with that mask, and that's a cool thing about this, that it just carries on, like carries the mask from whatever you mask with the other tools. I want to hide the mask, and I'm just gonna play with the hue. All right, and just to wrap it up, I'm going to use the cavity. I'm going like way too fast now, but hopefully you get a rough idea of what I'm trying to achieve here. All right, and that's it. Oh, one more thing, that if you were to get the brushes, like some of you guys are saying, another cool thing that you can try is the brushes are not just for sculpting, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So you could just, you know, bring these skin imperfections, right, which ultimately is a sculpting brush, to add this type of details. But if you turn off the Z add and enable RGB, you can literally paint with a brush that has those details. So it's another cool way to add you know, variation to your designs with custom brushes, and it works with any brush really. So like if I load the detail, no, the one, the lid wrinkler, right? So this brush right here, what you can do is again turn off the add and enable RGB, and it will just paint these details like that. So it's another cool way to use the brushes. So it's not, you know, it doesn't mean like if you these brushes, you're limited to what the brushes can do. You can just tweak them and make them work for you. That's the whole idea. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it here. I'll just do a quick render later and share the result. Maybe do a PBR pass and leave it there. That's the blue alien type of thing. All right. No worries, man. Thank you. When you school the next session, I think we're gonna continue with this, just like wrapping it up. Maybe we'll see how we go. There is a calendar on the website. Yep. So it's my streams here with ZBrush are every 2 weeks. So the next one will be, today's the first one for me here in Australia. Yeah, the 15th of February, my time. So for most of you that are on like around, yeah, on the other side of the world, it will be on the 14th. But yeah, there's a calendar in the website that you can check all of that. Cool, awesome, glad you like it. Oh, one more thing before I leave you, just to answer one of the questions about like how to sculpt the beard and stuff like that. So one thing you can do is I'm just gonna duplicate this guy. So let's say the one of the meshes would be the head, and the other one would be the beard. So it's the same mesh. So what I'll do is let's do yellow beard. So I'm gonna fill it with yellow. but this now they live in the same space, these two meshes. So what I'll take is this yellow one, and I'm just gonna deflate it. So use the inflate slider to -1 so that I can hide it, but it's still there. You'll see it's just deflated like very, just a tiny bit. And then I do have another set of brushes. These ones are free, like if you wanna get them already. It's called hair. So if you in the same link that I shared, these are free, and it's a little pack of brushes that you can use to sculpt what I'm going to show you. So you can use these long hair, and this is what I'll do. I'll just start doing the beard of the alien, right? And there's a tutorial on this, like if you want to be more specific, on the website. This is a cool way to just build a beard that's sculpted. So all of this is sculpted. You can, and it's different meshes, so you can bake it with different maps and with ID maps and stuff like that. Yeah, so this is another custom brush. These ones are free as well. I mean, the other ones is just, you know, I like to share them, but for free. But they're only like $15, just so that the time that I spend researching and building them doesn't go in vain. Yeah. So basically, this thing, what I'm showing you right now is that one of these meshes has all these details, but because it's like shrinked a little bit inside, you won't see the whole thing, and you don't have to duplicate the entire thing. You can just literally hide the rest and just delete and just keep only one portion of the mesh. That will be more, you know, so you don't have 6 million polygons. But yeah, that's the rest, and obviously you can change color now if you wanted to. But that's the idea. So one more time, just so that you know. Which one it is. So I'll share the link again. So the ones that I'm using are these ones right here. So this is there are 12 brushes, and it's just to do a sculpted hair basically. That's the reason I'm showing you. But yeah, have fun with that. I'm gonna delete this and leave this guy there. All right, so that's all for me today, guys. So I'll see you in a couple weeks, and definitely if you wanna get started with ZBrush, like some of you guys said during the chat, check out the 3D Concept Artist website, just because this one, the Ultimate ZBrush Guide course, is open for enrollment, so you can just enroll like right now. And like Comics Legend also asked the extra mile, which is this, it's like a mega course that I have online. This one will be opening for enrollment. Right now it's closed, so you can just register your interest here at the bottom and read all about the course here at the bottom. But yeah, just keep an eye on it, and I will let you know if you're part of the email list. I'll let you know when this opens, and I'll probably have more information about exactly when I'm gonna be opening the course for the next stream. So I'll let you know. All right, guys, take it easy and enjoy the rest of the week.